A wolf pup followed a hiker for miles, but he wasn't asking for food. The first time Nathan Cole saw the wolf pup, he thought it was a lost dog. It was early September in the Bitterroot Mountains, the kind of morning when the air still held summer warmth in the valleys, but the peaks already smelled faintly of snow. Nathan had started hiking before sunrise, hoping to reach Eagle Pass by noon and make it back to the trailhead before the afternoon storms rolled in. He was 37, a former search and rescue volunteer, and the sort of hiker who checked his map twice, packed extra socks, and carried more emergency supplies than most people thought necessary. He liked being alone in the mountains. Out there, the world was honest. Trails either climbed or dropped, weather either held or broke. Your legs either carried you or they didn't. After the year Nathan had been through, that kind of honesty felt like relief. His younger brother, Caleb, had died the previous winter in a climbing accident. Nathan had been the one who organized the search. He had been the one who found the broken ice shelf. He had been the one who told their mother there was nothing anyone could have done. Since then, people kept telling him to rest, to talk, to heal. But Nathan found grief easier to carry when his boots were moving. So that morning, he went alone. He was 4 miles up the Ridgewater Trail when he heard the first sound behind him, a soft crackle in the brush. Nathan stopped. The forest went still. He looked back along the trail, expecting to see a squirrel, maybe a deer, perhaps another hiker catching up. Instead, a small gray shape slipped between 2 pine saplings and froze. Nathan narrowed his eyes. It was a pup. At first glance, it looked like a husky mix, thin and long-legged, with oversized paws, pale gray fur, and ears too large for its head. Its eyes were a sharp golden color, bright and wary. It stood about 30 feet away, head low, tail tucked, but not wagging. Nathan's first instinct was concern. "Hey there," he said softly. "Where did you come from?" The pup did not move. Nathan crouched slowly, careful not to seem threatening. "You lost?" The pup's ears twitched. Then it took 1 step backward. That was when Nathan noticed the shape of the muzzle, the narrow chest, the way it held itself. Not like a domestic puppy. Not exactly. His stomach tightened. Wolf. A wolf pup. Nathan stood slowly. A lone wolf pup on a hiking trail was not normal. Wolf pups stayed near dens, rendezvous sites, or pack members. They did not casually follow humans through mountain trails unless something had gone very wrong. Nathan scanned the trees, suddenly aware that if there was a pup, there might also be adults nearby. He did not see them. That did not mean they weren't there. Nathan backed away, giving the pup space. "Okay," he murmured. "I'm leaving." He continued up the trail, slower now, listening. After a minute, he heard it again. Soft steps. He turned. The pup was following, still at a distance, still watching. Nathan sighed under his breath. No, absolutely not. The pup stopped when Nathan stopped. Nathan walked again. The pup followed. For the next half-mile, this strange pattern continued. Nathan would walk, the pup would trail him from 20 or 30 feet back. Nathan would stop and the pup would freeze. Twice, Nathan tried stepping off the trail to give the animal room to pass or retreat. The pup did neither. It simply waited, then followed when Nathan continued. It did not beg. It did not whine. It did not approach his pack or sniff for food. That was the second thing Nathan noticed. A hungry animal followed scent. It looked at your hands, your bag, your pockets. It tried to close the distance. This pup did none of that. Its attention was not on Nathan's food. It kept looking over its shoulder, again and again, back down the trail, back toward the valley, then at Nathan, then back again. Nathan felt the hairs rise at the back of his neck. "What are you trying to tell me?" he whispered. The pup gave a quiet, breathy sound, not a bark, not a howl, a small, anxious huff. Nathan knew better than to romanticize wildlife. He had spent years on search teams and wilderness calls. People got hurt when they imagined animals were messengers in fairy tales. Wolves were wild. Even a pup could bite. Adults could be nearby. Interfering with wildlife was dangerous and often illegal, but ignoring unusual behavior could be dangerous too. He pulled out his satellite messenger and considered sending a report. Then he looked at the screen. No emergency, no clear location issue, no human life in danger that he knew of, just a wolf pup following him. He decided to continue to the next overlook, where he would have a better view and possibly radio reception. If the pup kept following, he would contact wildlife authorities. The trail climbed through thick lodgepole pine, then opened into a stretch of rocky hillside. Sunlight spilled across the slope. Far below, the valley unfolded in shades of green and gold. A narrow creek flashed silver between trees. Nathan stopped to drink water. The pup stopped too. It was closer now, maybe 15 feet away. Close enough that Nathan could see mud caked on its legs, burrs in its fur, a shallow scrape along one side. It was breathing fast, not from aggression, but exhaustion. It had been traveling hard. Nathan slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out an energy bar, then stopped himself. "No," he said softly, "that's not what you need." Feeding a wolf pup could be disastrous. It could create dependency, draw it closer to people, and put it in danger later. Still, every instinct in Nathan wanted to help. The pup took 2 steps toward him. Nathan held still. The pup did not look at his pack. It looked down the slope. Then it turned and walked off the trail. Nathan frowned. The pup stopped beside a break in the brush and looked back. Nathan's pulse quickened. "No," he said. The pup waited. Nathan looked at the trail ahead, then back at the pup. He thought of every warning he had ever heard. Don't follow wild animals. Don't approach dens. Don't leave marked trails unnecessarily. Don't assume you understand. The pup gave another anxious huff. Then, from somewhere down the slope, carried faintly through the trees, Nathan heard a sound. A cry, thin, high, almost like a puppy whining. But not just one, several. Nathan went still. The pup turned toward the sound immediately, then looked back at him. Nathan's mouth went dry. "Oh," he whispered. "That's why." He took out his satellite messenger again and marked his location. This time he sent a non-emergency but urgent wildlife distress message to the regional ranger station, possible wolf pup leading to distressed animals off Ridgewater Trail, coordinates attached, requesting wildlife response. Then he followed, carefully, slowly. Not toward the pup, but in the direction it indicated, keeping distance and watching constantly for adult wolves. The slope was steep and uneven. Loose stones shifted under Nathan's boots. The pup moved ahead with surprising determination, though it stumbled twice. It passed between trees, over a fallen log, then down toward a ravine where the sound grew clearer. Whining, weak, desperate. Nathan stopped at the edge of the ravine. Below him was an old trapper's washout, a narrow cut in the earth where spring runoff had carved a steep-sided gully. At the bottom, caught in a tangle of roots and collapsed soil, were 3 wolf pups. They were smaller than the one who had followed him. One was standing, crying upward. One was lying in mud, shivering. The third was partly trapped beneath a fallen branch, its back legs pinned in the debris. All 3 were thin, dirty, and terrified. Nathan's chest tightened. The pup who had led him there scrambled down a safer side path and stopped near the trapped siblings, whining softly. The standing pup pushed toward him. The pinned one cried louder. Nathan scanned the area again. No adult wolves, no movement, no answering howls. Something had happened to the pack. He crouched at the rim, trying to assess the situation without getting too close. The gully walls were unstable. If he climbed down carelessly, he could collapse more dirt onto the pups. If he approached them, they might bite. If adult wolves returned, he would be in serious danger. But the pinned pup was fading, and the mud around it was wet from a trickle of water seeping through the slope. The weather was changing too. Clouds were building over the ridge. Afternoon storms would fill the gully. Nathan checked his satellite messenger. No reply yet. He pulled out his emergency whistle and blew 3 short blasts, the signal for distress, hoping another hiker might be nearby. Nothing answered except wind through the trees. He waited 10 minutes. The trapped pup cried weaker. Nathan closed his eyes briefly. "Caleb would call me an idiot," he muttered. Then he put on his gloves, secured his pack, and began climbing down. He moved slowly, keeping his weight low, testing every foothold. The leading pup watched him from below, ears back but not fleeing. The other pups grew quiet as Nathan approached, frightened into stillness. "I know," Nathan said softly. "I know I'm scary. I'm not here for you to like me." He reached the bottom of the gully and stopped several feet away. The smell of wet earth, animal musk, and fear filled the air. The pinned pup lay beneath a branch as thick as Nathan's arm. The branch itself was not the biggest problem. Mud and smaller roots had wedged around the pup's hind legs. Every struggle tightened the mess. Nathan took out his compact folding saw. The lead pup growled. It was tiny, but the sound was fierce. Nathan froze. "Fair enough?" He set the saw down, palms open, then waited. The lead pup trembled, torn between fear of Nathan and the cries of the sibling under the branch. Nathan kept his voice low. "I'm going to help. Then I'm leaving. That's the deal." The pup did not understand the words, but perhaps it understood his stillness. After several seconds, it backed away. Nathan sawed the branch slowly, careful to keep it from dropping. The pinned pup cried once, a sharp sound that made the others whine. Nathan paused, then shifted position. Mud soaked through his knees. A stone dug into his shin. The branch finally cracked. Nathan lifted it just enough to relieve pressure, then rolled it aside. The pup tried to crawl free, but couldn't. Its back legs were still trapped. Nathan's heart pounded. He used his gloved hands to clear mud from around the legs, working by feel, afraid of causing more injury. The pup snapped weakly toward him once, teeth clicking on empty air. "I know," Nathan whispered. "I'd bite me too." The mud released suddenly. The pup dragged itself forward and collapsed against its sibling. Alive, but not safe. None of them were safe. Thunder rumbled faintly above the ridge. Nathan looked up. "Of course," he said. The first raindrops began to fall. He checked the gully walls. The pups could not climb out where they were. The lead pup had likely escaped through the side path where the slope was less steep, then followed the trail until it found Nathan. But the smaller pups were too weak and one might be injured. Nathan could not carry 4 wolf pups out safely. He shouldn't even attempt to handle them more than necessary. He needed professionals. His satellite messenger beeped. "Response received. Wildlife team dispatched. Estimated arrival 55 minutes. Maintain distance. Do not handle unless immediate danger." Nathan laughed once, humorlessly, as rain began to darken the dirt around him. "Immediate danger is a flexible phrase," he said. Water began trickling faster into the bottom of the gully. The pups huddled together. The lead pup looked at Nathan. For the first time, it seemed less like a wild creature guiding him and more like what it was, a baby exhausted beyond understanding. Nathan made a decision. He would not carry them out unless the gully began flooding badly, but he could help them reach the side path. He took off his rain shell and spread it over a section of mud near the less steep slope, creating a barrier against the cold ground. Then he used dead branches and stones to build a rough, shallow ramp where the side path began. Not a structure exactly, just enough traction for small paws. The lead pup climbed first. It scrambled up the side path, then turned back. One of the weaker pups followed, slipping twice before reaching the top. The second, the one that had been lying in mud, tried and failed. Nathan used a branch to gently block it from sliding backward, never touching more than necessary. It made it halfway, then the lead pup came down and nudged it from behind. Nathan stared. "Come on," he whispered. Together somehow they got it up. The injured pup remained. Its back legs moved, but weakly. Nathan could not leave it. Rain strengthened. The gully bottom began to channel water around his boots. The injured pup tried to crawl toward the ramp and collapsed. Nathan looked toward the sky. "Sorry, wildlife team." He took a spare fleece from his pack, wrapped it around his forearms, and lifted the injured pup as gently as he could. It was lighter than he expected. It trembled violently, then snapped toward his sleeve, catching fabric but not skin. "Good," Nathan said through clenched teeth. "Still got fight." He carried it up the side path and placed it near the others beneath a thick pine where the ground was drier. The lead pup immediately pressed close to the injured one, sniffing its face. Nathan backed away. Then he sat on a rock 20 feet from them in the rain and waited. The pups huddled under the pine. The lead pup did not run. It watched Nathan, not with trust, not exactly, but with recognition. For the first time, Nathan noticed how quiet the forest was. No adult wolves calling, no signs of a pack returning. He wondered whether the mother had been killed, trapped, poisoned, or forced away. He wondered how long the pups had been alone before one of them found the courage to follow a human. The thought hurt. Caleb had once told Nathan during a rescue training exercise years earlier, "The hardest part isn't finding people, it's knowing how long they waited before anyone came." Nathan had hated that sentence. Now, sitting in the rain with 4 wolf pups under a pine tree, he understood it all over again. The wildlife team arrived just under an hour later. First came Ranger Elise Warren, a wildlife officer with 20 years of field experience and the calm, sharp eyes of someone who trusted tracks more than words. Behind her was Dr. Samir Patel, a wildlife veterinarian, and a younger ranger named June Avery carrying a transport crate and thermal blankets. Elise saw Nathan first, then the pups, then the gully. "You're the hiker?" she asked. Nathan stood, soaked and muddy. "Yes." "You handled one?" "Only the injured one. Gully was starting to flood." She looked past him at the water now rushing through the bottom. Then she nodded once. "Good call." That small approval hit Nathan harder than expected. Dr. Patel approached slowly, lowering his body. Speaking in a soft tone meant more for calm than comprehension. The pups backed away but did not scatter. They were too tired. The injured pup was examined first. "Possible soft tissue injury," Dr. Patel said. "No obvious fracture, but we need x-rays, dehydrated, cold." The others were thin and stressed, but alive. Elise scanned the area. "Any sign of adults?" "None," Nathan said. "I looked." June found tracks higher on the slope. Adult wolf prints several days old, then signs of disturbance near an old game trail, drag marks, broken brush, something metallic glinting in the mud. Elise followed the sign and found it. A snare, illegal wire set along the trail, empty now, but there was gray fur caught in it. Elise's face went hard. Damn it. Nathan knew what it meant before she said it. The mother wolf may have been caught there. Maybe she escaped injured. Maybe she died somewhere beyond the trail. Maybe the pack scattered after humans disturbed the area. The pups had ended up in the gully, hidden, stranded, waiting. One had climbed out. One had gone looking, not for food, for help. The team decided to take the pups to the Regional Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. Wolf pups could not simply be left without adult care, especially with the pack missing and one injured. It was a difficult decision. Removing wild animals from their habitat was never ideal, but leaving them there would almost certainly mean death. The lead pup was the hardest to catch. It dodged the net twice despite exhaustion, then stopped near Nathan's rock and looked at him. Nathan crouched slowly. "I know," he said. "You did enough." The pup stared. Then Dr. Patel lowered the net gently. This time the pup did not fight as hard. By evening, Nathan sat in the ranger station wrapped in a scratchy blanket, drinking terrible coffee while Elise took his statement. The pups were already on their way to the rehabilitation center. The injured one had been stabilized. The others were warming. Elise clicked her pen. "You understand how unusual this is? A wolf pup following a hiker. A wolf pup leaving siblings and following a hiker for miles. Nathan looked down at his muddy boots. He wasn't asking for food. No, Elise said. He wasn't. She studied him for a moment. You did well. Nathan swallowed. I almost kept walking. But you didn't. That night, Nathan slept in his truck at the trailhead because he was too exhausted to drive home. Rain drummed softly on the roof. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the pup standing on the trail looking back. He saw the gully, the trapped sibling, the empty snare. He thought of Caleb. He thought of the searches that ended too late. And he thought of one small wolf pup refusing to let that happen. The story spread faster than anyone expected. A hiker led by a wolf pup to trap siblings. Illegal snare discovered. 4 pups rescued. Local news wanted interviews, but Elise warned everyone to be careful. Wolves were controversial in that part of the state. Some people saw them as symbols of wilderness. Others saw them as threats to livestock and livelihoods. A sentimental story could help conservation, but it could also lead to people doing dangerous things, like approaching wolves or feeding them. Nathan agreed to speak only with the Wildlife Agency. His statement was simple. The pup followed me because something was wrong. I paid attention. Trained wildlife professionals did the rescue. People should not approach wolves or try to handle them, and whoever set that snare nearly killed an entire litter. The agency used the case to increase patrols and launch an investigation. More snares were found along game trails. Some were old, some were recent. One held the remains of a coyote. Another had caught only fur. The area was closed temporarily while officers searched for whoever had placed them. At the rehabilitation center, the pups were given temporary identification numbers. Nathan hated that. The staff did not. You do not name wolf pups like pets, Dr. Patel told him over the phone when Nathan asked for an update. But unofficially, the one who followed you is being called Scout. Nathan smiled for the first time in days. Scout. The injured pup, a smaller female, had no fractures. Her muscles were strained and one leg was bruised badly, but she improved. The other 2 gained strength quickly once fed and warmed. The rehab center kept human contact minimal. No unnecessary talking, no cuddling, no turning them into social media mascots. Their best chance was to remain wild. Nathan respected that. He still called every week. After the 3rd call, the center director, Marlene Ortiz, sighed and said, You know I'm not giving you detailed wolf custody rights, right? I just want to know if they're alive. They're alive. And Scout. A pause. Scout is trouble. Nathan grinned. That means good. That means he stole a glove and tried to hide it under straw. Good. It is not good. It is wolf behavior, which is better than tame behavior. Then that's good. Marlene made an annoyed sound but kept taking his calls. As the weeks passed, the pups grew stronger. They were moved to a larger enclosure away from public view. They learned to hunt live prey appropriate for their age. They wrestled, chased, tested boundaries, and avoided humans with increasing skill. Scout remained the boldest, always the first to investigate new scents, the first to climb onto rocks, the first to howl when distant coyotes called at dusk. The plan was complicated. If their original pack could be located, there was a chance of reuniting them. But no adult wolves returned to the rescue area. Trail cameras caught glimpses of wolves miles away, but none clearly connected to the pups. Eventually, wildlife biologists decided the pups would be integrated with another small group of orphaned wolves at a protected facility and later released as a juvenile group into a remote conservation area when old enough. It was not perfect. Wildlife rescue rarely was, but it was life. Winter came early that year. Nathan returned to work, returned to daily routines, returned to the awkward silence of people who wanted to ask if he was doing better but didn't know how. The difference was that now, every few weeks, an email arrived from Marlene with a brief update. All 4 pups gaining weight. Injured female fully mobile. Scout remains dominant but not aggressive. Group avoiding human presence well. Good candidates for release. Nathan printed the first update and stuck it to his refrigerator. then the second, then the third. His mother noticed during a visit. "Scout?" she asked. Nathan leaned against the counter. "The wolf pup. The one from the mountain?" "Yeah." She touched the printed email gently. "Caleb would have loved this." Nathan looked away. His mother did not push. After a while, he said, "I keep thinking about him." "Scout?" "Caleb." She nodded. Nathan's voice grew rough. "I couldn't save him." His mother closed her eyes. "No," she said softly. "You couldn't." The honesty hurt, but not cruelly. Nathan swallowed. "But I saved them." His mother took his hand. "You listened," she said. "That matters." Spring arrived slowly, melting snow from the lower valleys first, then the high trails. The release happened in late May in a remote section of protected forest far from roads and livestock. Nathan was not allowed at the actual release site. Marlene said his presence would be unnecessary and possibly harmful. "You are not a wolf parent," she told him. "I know." "Do you?" "Yes." "You sound disappointed." "I am disappointed responsibly." She softened enough to invite him to the monitoring station a few miles away, where biologists would track the wolves' movement through GPS collars fitted for temporary research. Scout, the injured female, and the two siblings were released with two other rehabilitated juveniles to form a small group. Nathan stood beside Marlene and Elise in front of a laptop showing a map of the conservation area. 6 blinking points appeared near the release zone. For a while they clustered together, then they moved, slowly at first, then deeper into the forest. Marlene folded her arms. "That's a good direction." Nathan stared at the blinking point labeled W-04. Scout. It moved ahead of the others. Of course it did. "He's leading," Nathan said. Marlene glanced at him. "Do not make me regret letting you watch." Nathan smiled. "I'm just observing." By midsummer, trail cameras captured footage of the young wolves moving through the forest at night. Lean bodies, bright eyes, silent paws. Scout appeared in several clips, larger now, his juvenile awkwardness turning into strength. The injured female ran without a limp. The group hunted, traveled, and avoided human areas. That was success, not affection, not return, distance, wildness. Life continuing beyond human hands. Nathan watched the footage alone in his apartment late one night. Scout paused in front of the camera, head lifted, ears forward. For a second, his golden eyes reflected in the infrared light. Nathan remembered the trail, the small gray shape behind him, the way Scout had looked back. He whispered, "You made it." Then the wolf moved out of frame. Years passed. The snare investigation led to charges against 2 men who had been setting illegal traps for coyotes and wolves near public land. The case became part of a larger conversation about predator conflict, responsible ranching, and the cruelty of indiscriminate traps. Nathan began volunteering again with search and rescue, slowly at first, a training weekend, then a missing hiker call, then winter preparedness classes. When he taught new volunteers, he told them about listening, not just to people calling for help, to the environment, to tracks, to silence, to behavior that didn't fit. He did not always tell the wolf story, but when he did, the room grew very quiet. "A wolf pup followed me for miles," he would say. "I thought he was hungry. He wasn't. He had siblings trapped in a gully, and he had done the only thing he could. He found the nearest moving creature and refused to let it ignore him." Someone would always ask, "Do you think he knew you could help?" Nathan would answer honestly, "I don't know what he knew. I know what he did." That was enough. 5 years after the rescue, Nathan returned to Ridgewater Trail in early September, not because he expected anything, not because he believed the past could be revisited cleanly. He simply wanted to walk the trail again without grief being the only thing walking beside him. The morning was clear. The pines smelled of resin. The trail climbed the same way it always had. At the overlook, Nathan stopped and looked down toward the valley. Then he heard a howl, far away, low and wild. Another answered. then another. Nathan stood perfectly still. Across the valley on a distant ridge, several wolf shapes moved between the trees, too far to identify, too far to know. One paused on a rock, head lifted against the pale sky. Nathan's heart beat hard. It might not have been Scout. It probably wasn't. But for a moment he let himself imagine a gray wolf with golden eyes leading others through the high country, alive because once, when he was small and desperate, someone had followed. The wolf on the ridge turned and disappeared into the forest. Nathan smiled through tears. "Good," he whispered. That was all. Good. The mountains were quiet again. So before we go, remember this. Sometimes a cry for help does not sound like a cry. Sometimes it looks like a small wild animal following from a distance, stopping when you stop, looking back again and again toward the place where others are waiting. The wolf pup was not asking for food. He was not lost in the simple way Nathan first imagined. He was carrying an urgent message in the only language he had. "Follow me. Someone is trapped. Don't leave." And because one hiker finally listened, 4 young wolves were pulled from the edge of death and given back to the wild. Not every rescue ends with an animal staying close. Sometimes the best ending is watching them disappear into the trees, exactly where they belong.